If you think your logo is your brand, think again. In this video, I'll be talking about the difference between visual identity and brand identity and why understanding both is crucial to your business. I'll also be sharing some tips on how you can align them so your brand not only looks great, but it also connects with your audience. My name is Reed. I'm the creative director of Best Friend Jack. I've been doing health tech and healthcare brand marketing for about 20 years, and this is a common point of confusion. The main thing you need to know is that visual identity sits inside of your brand identity. It's not distinct, and they both influence one another. What we always tell our clients is the level of investment that you should be making in each really comes down to the type of company you're building and the stage of growth you're at. What is visual identity? Well, it's just like it sounds. It's everything you could see about your brand. It's the colors, the logo, the font choices, the pictures. It's basically what you think of when you think of a famous brand. Why is visual identity important? Well, having a consistent look and feel lends your brand instant credibility, and over time, it builds recognition and trust. But visual identity is meaningless on its own. That's where brand identity comes in. What is brand identity? Before I answer that question, I think it's important that we share a definition of just what is a brand. As we've already mentioned, it's not your logo. Your brand is the sum total of all the interactions and impressions that someone has had with your brand. So their association with your name, your logo, your colors, but also what it's like to use your product, or even the last time they called your customer support line. In that way, your brand's a lot like your reputation. Brand identity then is all the deliberate choices that we as marketers make to try and influence that reputation. How do we describe what we do? What category do we put ourselves in? What does our brand look and sound like? Are we loud and in your face? Are we warm and empathetic? Or clinical and matter of fact? These are all questions of brand identity. How do we compare visual identity and brand identity? Well, visual identity might be the first thing that people think of when they think of your brand. When you ask them to describe it, that's all brand identity. Why is brand identity so important? Well, it shapes how your company is perceived and valued, it helps you stand out from the competition, and it allows people to develop an emotional connection that builds trust and loyalty over time. What are the 6 core components of brand identity? Number 1, brand name. What is your brand called? Sometimes your brand name will give an idea about what kind of company you are, like a Teladoc, and sometimes not, like Parsley Health. Number 2, brand positioning. Brand positioning is the strategic heart of your brand identity. It helps people frame the value of what you do against all their alternatives. So, what kind of category are you competing in? Who are you helping? What problem are you solving for them? And most importantly, why are you better? This is where you hear people talk about a unique value proposition or a unique selling proposition. But at its heart, the goal of a good brand and product positioning is to help you stand out and to help your ideal customers immediately grasp the value that you and only you can provide. Messaging is how we communicate the points, the benefits, the features that support that value. Number 3, mission, vision, and values. This is all the big picture stuff, your purpose, why you exist. Sometimes companies choose to put this front and center, like Maven Clinic, who's putting women and family at the center of healthcare. This is usually a move for bigger, more established companies, while earlier stage companies focus more on product positioning. Brand values are the values that you embrace to help you get there, and they're often used to help shape your internal culture. Number 4, personality. These are the human traits that you want people to associate with your brand. Just like people, brands can be funny or serious, formal or informal, bold or boring. The choices you make about your brand personality will shape a lot of your creative choices. Like number 5, verbal identity. Your verbal identity is how your brand sounds when you communicate. It's the tone of voice of your headlines and all of your copy. Last but not least, number 6, visual identity. Visual identity is how your brand looks. As we've discussed, this is the very high profile part of your brand identity that people see when they look at your brand. It's your colors, it's your logo, all the imagery you're using, and how it all works together. That's what we call a design system, and it lets people know how to use your brand and keep it consistent. How to develop a cohesive brand identity in healthcare. At Best Friend Jack, the recommendations that we make depend on what kind of company you're building and the unique opportunities and challenges facing your brand. For earlier stage companies, we recommend a limited investment in brand identity until you've found product market fit. We run focused workshops to help companies get crystal clear on the value they're providing. We also give you a basic visual identity you can use for your website and your pitch decks. At this stage of the game, it's all about credibility, professionalism, and flexibility. For growth stage companies, a compelling product positioning and brand identity can have a huge impact. For these companies, it makes sense to invest more time developing, testing, and building a brand that customers prefer over all their other choices. At every stage, brand identity is strategic work that has to be owned and supported from the very top. If you don't have buy-in from the CEO, this is the type of exercise that's going to wind up locked in a file somewhere and make zero impact on your business. Your brand identity also needs to be practical and easy to use. So whether you're outsourcing this work to an agency or doing it in-house, it's important to never stop with a set of brand guidelines. You always want to translate that into customer-facing materials that can have an immediate impact and give your team an example to follow when they're producing their own assets. How do visual identity and brand identity connect in healthcare? Well, as we've seen, they're closely linked. Let's look at some examples. In the mental wellness category, we've got Headspace and Calm. These are two brands with very different positionings and very different market segments. That results in very different brand identities. The Headspace brand is playful, friendly, and positive, whereas the Calm brand identity is tranquil and reassuring. No matter what stage your health tech or healthcare company is at, if you want to take the next steps towards improving your brand, check out our playlist linked in the description below.